All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast that you're about to hear is not safe for work. NSFW, if I got that correctly. And you'll know why as you continue to hear this conversation, because I got one of my best friends on here who at times can be very inappropriate, but this is why I love him. So
I'm me.
Tony Castillo, what's up, man? Welcome to the pod, brother.
What's up, Dezi? The last time we hung out, we were at the oldest tiki bar in Florida.
Oldest
yes,
tiki bar.
Drinking gasoline.
Yes. And it looked like it. And the dude next to us was somehow rocking a QT visor. I didn't even know you had QT in Florida.
Visors haven't been a thing since like Malibu's Most Wanted, the movie. Like that's when it was killed. But somehow he brought it back for that moment, and I thoroughly thank him for it.
What was that dude's name? B-Rad? That was his name,
B-Rad
right?
from Malibu.
Malibu. Yeah, man. That's yeah. So that was my second time in Florida. And I was only there for like, well, the first time was for like a work trip, and it was where the heck, St. Petersburg, and it was at like a resort. It was dope. Like I didn't leave the resort, so like I didn't really get to see Florida. But you, in the 18 hours that I was there,
you didn't get to see any QT visors or a tiki bar. You didn't get the full Florida experience. So you're welcome. You got to go to resort. That's not Florida.
That's not Florida. No, going to a tiki bar and living that life and meeting freaking Charlie with his QT visor, letting us know how old the bar was probably just a cherry on top. But yeah, so for our listeners out there, I literally had gone to a wedding of one of our mutual friends, and I was there for maybe 19 hours. Tony and his wife and beautiful little girl were so gracious to pick me up from the airport. I was supposed to stay with them, but I ended up having too much fun. I ended up staying elsewhere. But yeah, so this is the last time I saw this guy. So since then, Tony, man, again, welcome to the pod. You know, you and I have shared this journey in a lot of ways together. Obviously, I met you when I first started my entrepreneurship journey. I mean, before that, I said I was an entrepreneur, but I wasn't really doing anything correctly. It was just like overthinking things and not really doing anything. So I think you and I met each other at really interesting stages of our life. And I figured, man, like just being one of your really great friends. I just named myself that, by the way. So being one of your really great friends.
I was gonna let it slide. I was like, it's true, but you don't have to let everyone know. Don't let them know about my business. My friends are gonna listen to this and be like, yo, who's this dude Dezi? Be like, shut up, dude.
Yeah. I don't know this guy Dezi. So you and I have been able to share a lot of wins and a lot of growing moments together. And I figured, man, just being your friend, really hearing your story and getting our listeners and our viewers who are going to watch us on YouTube and IGTV a chance to know what it looks like to get to a point where you're just constantly seeing yourself in an evolution and you're truly enjoying life. I mean, you and I, before we got on right now, like you had just said, like, hey, life is really great and I'm happy. And you look at, man, I think fatherhood for you has been so influential. So, dude, I'm really happy to see it, man. I'm really happy to have you on. So if you could, TC, do us a favor, introduce yourself, and then we'll get into your story, man.
So my name is Tony Castillo. I'm a registered dietitian, and I focus mainly working with active individuals and athletes who want to change their body composition, who want to either increase muscle, increase size, decrease body fat, all without using stupid supplements, crazy meal plans, or anything that's going to push them farther away from performing at their best. Because there's so many things out there that both you and I know, Dezi, that are promised. I loved working in baseball and being like, hey, Tony, does this work for boosting testosterone? And I was like, there's nothing in that pill bottle that's going to help you boost testosterone. You know what's going to help? Get some sleep. But again, that's a whole nother conversation we can have. But just like, please stop bringing stupid supplements to the table.
Yeah. And I think kind of, Tony, as we look at your trajectory of where you are now, I mean, you've been able to really coin yourself and set yourself aside from others because of your experience. And even more so, I would probably even say like the biggest outlier is going to always be like your ability to connect with people and connect with clients. And I don't know how you feel about this, but a lot of times when I have a client, like we'll we'll sort of set them off with like being friends. Like we'll be friends because we've shared that journey. And I feel like you and I really resonate in a lot of similar ways with that. So let's start with your story, man. I just recorded a pod with our guy Andres. Shout out to you, man. Anders. Yeah, he's an American now. We'll call him Andy. But I met you both at the same time. And so I've had a front row seat to both of your evolution and kind of bringing it back to you. I don't know a whole lot beforehand, man. So what's your story? Tell us your story.
Well, I remember that we went to a conference together and we both got to share a little bit of our journey, like how we became this. So just me personally, like how I got into nutrition and how I got into dietetics, I guess, in my own journey started out when I was young. And I think I've said this on other podcasts before, but I want to say it on here because it's important. I've been dieting since probably the age of 13 and I'm now 33. So 20 years, 20 years I've been at this.
Shit, man. Yeah.
I mean, it's scary to think, especially being a guy, being that I'm a dietitian, being that we're dietitians, to even think about something like that. So I say that because in middle school, actually, this part I don't even know if I've shared, but I remember going to a urologist who specializes in men, right? In development.
Yeah.
13 years old. I go with my mom because I had been overweight. I've had man boobs. I was made fun of by my grandmother growing up and my mom always being restrictive in diets and always trying to help me lose weight. So we go to the urologist. I remember the urologist was a female. My mom was in the room. How embarrassing for a 13-year-old kid who smelled like BO having his mom and a female urologist, right? So they come in. I remember she literally grabs one of my balls and measures it with this little like necklace that looks like anal beads and puts it right next to my nuts. And she's like, yep, his nuts look pretty normal. And I was like, oh, great. My mom's here and you're telling me to pull my pants down, show my nuts. Like I turned away. Like I don't want my mom seeing my nuts.
There's like no like bedside manner with
that, man.
Like,
I was like, this is really strange.
This is not okay. Yeah.
And then so the whole point was because I didn't like the way my body looked because I had man boobs. And she's like, well, we can give you like testosterone treatment if that's what you want. And I'm like 13 years old, like barely hitting puberty. Like, how is that even an option? How is that even thrown out? And I remember my mom pulled me aside. She's like, is this what you want to do? I was like, no. And like, we can also do plastic surgery. And I'm just like, now that I'm reflecting on all this, it's like 13 freaking years old. And you're telling me the only two things I can do are plastic surgery or testosterone boost.
Yeah.
Huh. Luckily, I did neither of those choices.
Yeah.
I went through middle school and high school being made fun of my weight. I played as a lineman in football in high school. And then eventually my senior year came around because I just couldn't lose the weight. I had the man boobs being made fun of. And during that time in high school, a lot of guys were going around doing like scoop and they'd scoop other guys. And I was super insecure about that. Like I was like, I didn't want to be around other dudes. Like that just really hit me deep. So I saw a buddy of mine that I was working with and he was a bodybuilder. He's like, hey man, I asked him for help. He gave me a meal plan and a workout plan. I lost the weight, felt super confident, felt like the biggest cock of the walk, as they say. By cock, I mean rooster. All right. Just don't get it confused with anything else.
NSFW.
So then I feel great. I go to college and then beer and lack of sleep and partying all come in. I gain all the weight back. I decided to try every diet. The South Beach diet was popular at the time. Atkins, low carb, if it fits your macros, fasting. I tried every supplement. Hydroxycut was really popular at the time. Every pre-workout, every protein powder, nothing worked. So I got my degree in biology and chemistry. And right when I was taking that break, I was working at the university and I wish I was kidding. It was October 31st. I don't know the year, but I know it was Halloween because I was dressed up as a German Lederhosen guy, the beer person. I go down to do my infamous move, the ground and pound, and I broke my foot because I was underfueling and doing so many freaking diets that I'd never broken a bone in my body. And I was way past the time for that to happen. And I broke my foot from dancing too hard. So
you just came too correct, man.
Yeah, it came too hard on a Halloween night. So I woke up that next morning and I didn't even remember this. I went to sit on bed and I just go, ah! And I thought it was just like a sprained ankle. No, I had the scan the next day and it was broken. All this because of dieting history. All this because of the way I looked. all this being made fun of. And I remember even in college, when I'd go on spring break, I'd be either the last one in to the water or the first one in the water so that no one would see me with my shirt off. And there's even pictures of me. You can always see I had like an umbrella hat because I wanted all the attention to be away from my chest and my body because I was so ashamed of it. And in a lot of pictures, I had towels around my shirt because I don't want people to see me like that. Well, and now I end up breaking my foot. And I'm like, man, there's got to be something out there for me. Is it the meal plan I'm missing? Is it the meal delivery services? What is it that I'm missing? So my wife's like, hey, let's just go to this open house. And I go to this open house and they have nutrition. I'm like, nutrition? You can get a degree in this? I thought this was like a weekend certification that you just pick up when you work at a gym or something. Right? And that's what a lot of people think. So I look at the classes that I need, and it's a lot of biology and chemistry. And I was like, oh, I already got a lot of this. Let me just take a nutrition class. And I fell in love, man. I did my master's in nutrition. I did my internship. And I was like, you know what? I still wasn't happy with my body. Like, I did all the courses. I learned all the science. I understand human metabolism, but it's like, how is this going to apply to me? So I decided to work with athletes. I worked at the University of Florida, and I was like, all right, these guys got to know what they're doing because, right, University of Florida, one of the best schools in the nation. They have some of the best athletes. So what are they feeding them? What's the secret? How can these guys be whipped?
What's the secret stuff?
What's the supplement they're doing? What are they hiding in their locker rooms? None of that, man. It was just eating real food, and it blew my mind. And it was a performance is what got me, because they were like, we're eating to perform better. It wasn't how they looked, it was how they performed. And I had never heard of that nor experienced it. And it was one of the biggest shifts in my life. And I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. So then from there, my director took me with her to work at the Toronto Blue Jays baseball club. And I absolutely love baseball, impacting these kids who were 13 years old, didn't know. And I remember this just in my head, just like, I was like, all right, come on the board and write like your favorite meal, which is just rice and beans. And this kid could not even write in his own language, rice and beans, which was Spanish. And I was like in such shock. I was like, holy crap, like these kids don't even know how to read and write in their language. And they'd ask me like, hey, Tony, how can I perform better? And being that I teach about hydrate or dihydrate, which we'll get to, I'm sure, they were like, hey, how can we hydrate when we don't have the facilities available here? So I made it available for them. And when I come back and visit, they'd be like, I can see a difference in my performance. And I knew that my calling wasn't just about weight loss, muscle gain. And that's what I said at the beginning, but it's really about improving your performance and being better at who you are, having a good body image, understanding that the scale isn't everything. And it really helped me with my platform, because my goal is really to affect as many people as possible and tell them that eating more fruits and vegetables is probably what you need to do. Performing better in life is what you probably need to do. And you need to stop jumping on these diets, these fat burners, these supplements, testosterone therapies, plastic surgeries, bariatric surgeries for those that just doing it for the incorrect reasons. All these quick fixes when you really just need to focus on yourself and how you're performing. So that was a very long story. So I apologize.
No, it's a good intro to things that I really want to examine more and kind of pick apart, man. I mean, you and I have talked about the value of establishing or reestablishing the stigma of like men not talking about some of these issues, right? And I think you and I have been definitely in the front running of like really helping men to examine that, because men aren't immune to it. It happens. And so, I mean, you talked about going to this urologist at 13, and you and I have had conversations about this privately. You know, I started with eating disorders. So when we help someone to examine their own visual or their own image of their own body ideal, we go over influential moments, and we go over moments where you knew, even in childhood, that like you felt like things were okay, but maybe others had comments on your bodies. And so we address those external triggers, right? I kind of want to go back into that urologist office for you. That was obviously an influential moment.
Absolutely.
Right. And it honestly influenced you towards, well, the only things to fix my body in this case is surgical or hormone relief. Like, what else is out there for me? So TC, if we can kind of go back to just being a child, I mean, when was the first time that you felt like your body was different, and where did that come from?
When I was in second grade and then again in third grade.
Okay. Reason
being is that I'm Hispanic in a predominantly American, white, Caucasian city. And in
where was that again?
in Stuart, Florida. So it's just an hour and a half north of Miami, which we would all think Miami being super Hispanic, there'd be a ton of Hispanics here. I remember my first grade teacher at the PTA conference with my parents said to my parents, he's never going to be able to speak English. This town has a lot of racist roots. And then I remember, it must have been second or third grade, I knew my body was different because I saw all the kids drawing pictures of themselves and using the peach color. Like it was almost to the nub.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I remember being like, I can't use peach. I had to use mahogany. And I remember we put all the pictures outside of the classroom. And I remember being out there with the teacher. And she's like, I'm looking at it and she's like, what color do you use mahogany? And she didn't like okay it, but she didn't say it was wrong. So I knew first off, my skin color was the first thing that was different from everyone else in my class because literally peach was on horde that day. No one could use it that day. Everyone was like peach. And I'm just like,
like, how did you get a 24? How do you get a 24 crayon box of just peach? Like, is this even a thing?
I remember someone was like, can I borrow yours? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not going to use it. So first off, it was skin color. But then knowing that my body was different was just even before the urologist, just from my family. My mom being on constant diets, my grandma telling me like, do I need to get you a bra? And it's just like, what the fuck is that? Like, how is that supportive of a child? Yeah. Let alone be a guy or whatever. We're going to go down that route, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think, Tony, there's something there that I think is really deep. I mean, I would guess that for most people, especially in childhood and teenage, as you're an adult, I mean, one thing across the board that I think that we all want is to feel seen and to feel heard and to feel like you're accepted, right? And I think that moment right there of noticing that, one, not only is your body different based off of what things are being said to you, but even more so seeing that visual. I mean, I can see it as you're talking about it right now, seeing that visual of 24 other classmates that are using that peach color. And then you have this one guy that's using mahogany and like the teacher saying like, that's not wrong, but really there's no other thing that needs to be said besides, oh, you're different. Right. And one of the things, Tony, that I've really have valued of things that we've shared, because you talked about baseball, you talked about being with these Latin American kids. And I share that too, right? How can we set these athletes up for success if they don't have the baseline of privilege that most Americans do back in the States, right? And so I know that you're Dominican Republic, right? So like that's DR represent, right? Que lo que.
Pa que sepa.
So were you born in the U.S.?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever asked you this question.
In New York. Okay. I lived there till I was like 2 years old. Then we moved to Stuart, Florida.
Okay. Damn, that's a change.
Yeah. My dad he was working at a hospital in West Palm. So he was driving about 30 minutes to an hour every day to and from to work at that hospital and opening up his private practice in this town at the same time. So we moved here to help better his career, which is awesome. I love my dad and he's a grinder. He's definitely a big influence on me and how I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, if we're looking at like that moment as you're 13, it obviously led you down a path where you continued to struggle until you kind of found the light, if you will, with understanding like what performance actually can do for your life if you switch your mindset from the process and not just the outcome, right? Because I think what we oftentimes find working with people is that it is constantly about the outcome, and however you're going to get there, like you're willing to put your mind, your body, and your soul into dire strife to try to get there, whether that's supplements or whatever that is, right? So I would love for us to kind of go back into those moments. Do you have any idea now where you are today, like what you were searching for back then?
Acceptance and peace. If I feel like I had to put words into it. And by acceptance, it was that being that I was born in the States, I was always the gringo cousin. I'd speak English, or I speak Spanish different. And then I'd come here and I'd speak English different. So it was never being accepted for the language I spoke when I thought it was just being normal with everyone else. So acceptance in what my body was from both sides. Right.
Yeah.
And I say acceptance because I remember I go down being the gringo cousin and they'd make fun of the way I speak and then make fun of the way I look, like telling me that I needed a bra. And even till this day, as you said, I have a daughter who's now 9 months old. God bless, wish her a healthy life. And my grandma said to me when she came to visit, is your wife giving her breast milk or are you? And it's like, holy shit, again, like, do you understand the body image I've been through? And like, I've accepted and I moved on and I just, it just like, yeah, it affected me. But at that moment, but it's just like, you have to move on and move forward. But it's just like, it's still there. And
it never leaves.
No,
you know, it's there. You just have to like constantly get to a place in your own life. And obviously we're going to touch on the habits of what's gotten you to where you are today, TC. But at the same time, like those things don't leave. Ever.
As much as we, especially as guys, we like to hide things. We like to hold them in, but the more and more we hold them in on those days that are dark, they really come out and attack us. And the days that are great, they're still there, but they still creep up and they say, hey, is it really that great? Have you seen yourself in the mirror? Do you feel like you've made a big impact? Do you feel like you're doing the right things? Should you do something else?
Yeah. You know, man, I obviously beforehand I told you like, hey, you and I have shared these stories together. You and I have uplifted one another when one of us is fucking killing it. The other one is like, self-doubt and imposter syndrome, man. It's like beating the shit out of me today. And it's like, no, man, you get up, like, are you busy? Like, let's get on the phone real quick. And so we've been that like person for one another. And that's why I really, really love our friendship and think why it's so special. So I would love for us to kind of, you touch in those dark moments, right? So kind of looking back, TC, like prior to, to where you are today, what influential and dark moments have you experienced? And what's that one thing or that one person that got you through during that time?
Part of my business is being a team. I don't even say like working with my clients, even though I work with them one-on-one. It's also about the community we have. So why am I saying that? Because I mean, my wife has been huge. My mom has been huge. My dad has been huge. And when I say huge, like they've all been a part of it. You've been part of it. Andres has been part of it. Jenna's been part of it. Alex, Tony, all these people that are dietitians as well. They've been part of it. And it's not just one person. Nothing that I don't want to give credit. Like my wife has done an amazing job. Like I wouldn't be where I am without her, like 100,000%. But then my dad being in private practice and him telling me like, here's some things you can do to help yourself out. Cause I've been in dark times. I'm like, Dad, what do I do? Like you've been here. Like, what do you think I should do? And he's like, it's going to be okay, son. Just keep doing what you do and it'll be okay. And then with my wife, I remember there was one point in time I just cried. And she told me, she's like, it's going to be okay. We are okay. Life goes on. When it's been those, for lack of a better word, shit months where you're just trying to really, and this is our job, right? Like show people that what we have is more of a value than a fucking fat burner. So sorry for the French, but it's just like, and we show them the value.
It's true, man.
And then they come back like, oh, I can't do it. And it's like, why not? Like you just told me all these things. I was supposed to hop on a call today with someone, Dezi. They were going in for kidney stone removal. This wasn't the first time. And it's because they followed a ketogenic diet. And the doctor literally said, because of you following a ketogenic diet, you are getting these kidney stones. And she ghosted me, Dezi. And it's just like, how do you expect to perform better if you keep thinking that diet's going to make you do better? But anyways, back to who influenced me. Like, and then with my mom, it's just like, she's always been on a diet. Even now, she's just like, oh, I can't have bread in the house. And it's like, why not? Like, what's going to happen? Like, and even hearing my sister-in-law saying it to my daughter, because she brought her these crackers and she's like, oh, because you live in a no carb house. And it's just like, what the fuck? I eat Oreos. I eat pizza. Where's everyone getting this? Like that I just don't eat carbs. Like, where's this coming from? Because I definitely eat carbs. And like, literally on every plate I have carbs. Every snack I have carbs. Like, I don't know what I need to do to show people like, hey, I eat carbs. And it's just like, where is this? I eat bread. I eat in front of my mom. Nothing happens. I eat rice. I eat beans. I eat tortillas. I eat whatever the hell's in front of me because that's what I want to eat. Like, where are they getting this no carbs? Like, even when I've gone out with my sister-in-law, like, not just me and her, like with the family, but like I'll eat carbs. It's not like I shy away from them. Like I love donuts. So it's just like this thing with dietitians, right? That are like, oh, we don't eat that. So having my wife there to support me is definitely like my number one. And then my number two is my dad. And then the number three is my mom. And it's not because she supported me, but because she's doubted me. She's doubted what I can do. She's doubted everything I've said. And that's just because that's her family brought her up. I recently had this conversation with her. I'm like, when are you going to say you're proud of me? Because all you do is you say I work different hours, which if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to take care of my daughters in the morning.
Yeah.
You always say that I should just go get a 9-to-5 when I don't want a fucking 9-to-5. I want to help people. And that 9-to-5 job is not how I do it. A lot of people have been influential in this journey. And if there was one moment, I couldn't say that there's one moment. There's too many. And I rely on a team of people, and it's scary because being a male, saying that you rely on other people, number one, number two, sharing this story with multiple people was just like opening a wound. Like I'm feeling it right now on my insides, on the goods. Like it's hurtful, but I know that by sharing, it's going to help someone out there. And that's the biggest thing that we can do. That's the point of this, right? To help people understand that.
Mm-hmm. Well, man, I think you touched on something, Tony, that I think is really a groundbreaking thing for a lot of our listeners that are listening right now and that will view this on YouTube. The thing that you pointed toward is like surrounding yourself with a community that's going to continue to either push you and uplift you, or in this case, a lot of what you just said, which I thought, I mean, I felt some sadness and some hurt hearing that your mom hasn't said that to you. Yeah. Right. So it's like you're kind of using these relationships to kind of keep you going in this way. And I have to ask you, man, so like we started this story with what happened in the urologist's office. Mm-hmm. We're continually seeing this evolution, and then who you are today. All of that had to do with like how you felt about your body. Mm-hmm. Right. So with where you are right now, like how do you feel about your body? You know, what has that done for your success today?
Dude, I love it. I want it to get stronger. Like a lot of guys out there, right? Like more muscle, yoke, daddy. But I'm happy with my body. There's days that are great and there are days that are tough, right? Mm-hmm. I have a better relationship with the scale. So what does that mean? I step on it. I don't get pissed or sad or think I need to restrict because the scale went up, let's say a couple pounds. Like who gives a crap? Like, was I able to lift heavy? No. Okay. Was my sleep poor? Was my nutrition okay? Like I start to listen to my body instead of just focusing on the scale, and seeing pictures of myself and seeing how much I've changed without having to do calorie counting has been huge for my mental state, because my Fitness-Pal came out in college and I was doing the whole My Fitness-Pal. I remember I was doing 1,500 calorie days and it was telling me I'd be at this weight by this time, and being like, if you keep it this rate in 8 weeks, you're going to be at this. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to get there. And I would never get there because the weekends would come and I'd be like, deuces, my Fitness-Pal. And now I'm like able to go out, enjoy a drink, eat carbs. All these things that I was told I wasn't able to do. And my body's thanking me for it. And I'm at a very happy place with my body, because even when we started business, man, I remember I thought to myself, how am I going to do this? I don't have abs. I'm on Instagram. Do I need to take my shirt off and show that I have abs? If anything, I have man boobs and I'm scared to show them. And I think I posted a picture I think it was right before Amaya was born. So that's less than a year ago. That was the first shirtless picture I posted, and I was scared shitless, man. I had never been that open with anyone, let alone putting it on social media for people that I knew in college, people that I knew personally, people I knew professionally, seeing me without a shirt on. And I was just like, shit, why did I do that? And it was scary. So there's good days and there's bad days, but it's all about how you get through those days is what makes it big, and not comparing myself to other people, because that was the biggest thing. Like, I'm not going to look like name X person, just like X person isn't going to look like me. And I'm not trying to strive to be anyone but myself.
Well, I mean, I remember, I actually really remember that photo, because that was one of the first times that I saw your story in writing, where you talked about the urologist, where you talked about the plenty of times that you had dieted through college and how you felt about yourself, and how most of the time it became about like the partying and other things just to help you sort of completely distract yourself from being in your body, right? And so I definitely remember that. And I also wonder too, man, like, why do you think, I don't think that there's any high performer out there right now that is listening to this that has at some point not understood the value of being confident in how you look and how you feel in your body. That just hasn't had that type of awareness. So I almost wonder for you, like, we started this with how you felt about your body and then where you are today. I mean, do you think that you have been successful in what you do because of the type of work that you've done with how you view your own body image?
Absolutely. If you don't work on yourself, how can you expect to help others? One of the things I'm sure you talk about all the time with your clients is how do you fill your cup up?
Yeah.
And being a new parent, it's shown on my wife that she's not filling her cup up because she gets like, what's the word? Like drained, and you can tell. And while I'm still waking up and I'm still going to the gym, I'm getting the right amount of sleep. Like I make sure I still do it, and she's breastfeeding, and it's tough on her, right?
It's tough.
But I try to explain to her, like, look, go have your alone time, and then it becomes a fight instead of a place of help, because I just want her to go enjoy herself. Like, it's okay, I can take care of Amaya, nothing's gonna happen. But if I didn't take care of myself, and if I don't take care of myself, it comes out very much so. Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously this podcast is about people's heroes' journeys, right? And it's diving into the habits and the stories of high performers and those moments that they had to be triumphant over. So I want to touch on that, Tony, real quick. I mean, you mentioned the stuff that you're doing now to try to, it sounds like, you correct me if I'm wrong here, it sounds like to be in your body and to come out each and every day in the way that you do with your clients, with things that you post, like whatever that is, like your most authentic, truest self, right? That's what I hear when you say stuff like what you just said. So kind of looking back, seeing your evolution, Tony, what habits or what things have you been like, these things have guided me through this whole process?
Meditation has been huge. Something I would have never done.
Facts. Oh my God.
Let alone 3-4 years ago. Like before that, I would have been like, man, meditation's super like hippy dippy. Like I'm never going to do that. That's what like crazy people do. I don't know. Meditation, huge game changer for me. I've always been a big sleeper, so sleep is always a priority. And being in tune with how I'm fueling myself, like understanding like when I eat the right foods, not that there's wrong foods, but when I eat foods that I enjoy, like I feel my body performing at its best. Like I'm not relying on that 2 o'clock coffee to get me through the day. And that was a big change for me. So eating right, stress management, like going to the gym, exercising, and I'm not overly exercising. And I wasn't, so before I'd exercise to lose weight, now I exercise to feel good, which is a whole different mindset.
I mean, that's a transformation in itself right there, dude. Yeah.
And then planning's got to be like number one, because I used to kind of just, like with clients, like, I'll have a call with you next week. And I would put it on a calendar, but then like now I plan at least 2 weeks in advance. Every Friday I sit down and I plan and I journal. And those are the those are the things that have pushed me forward. So like meditation, fueling correctly, better sleep, better stress management, planning. Those are things that have really helped me move forward. And then being open. We have 3 things up in our room that reminds us of like our family values, and it's family, health, honesty. So every time we have a decision, I look at those 3 things and I say, are we meeting those 3 things? And our goal is hopefully when Amaya's old enough and she asks us, hey, can I go do this? It's reflecting on those three words, family, health, and honesty. So every time we make a decision in this house, we say, does it meet those 3? And if it's something that doesn't, then we're not going to do it. And if it meets all 3, then we can go ahead and decide on that decision moving forward.
Yeah. This is so interesting too, because I think we get the perspective of you being a father, and then also having the perspective of having parents that you look up to. And obviously no one has perfect relationships with their parents, right? No one does.
What?
No one does. Yeah. Right. So it's like, you're kind of using those, Tony. And I love the 3 values, because to me, it kind of shows that you and Alyssa have at least had one or 1,000 intentional talks about like, what do we actually want to pass down? So I have to ask you, man, I mean, I've been part of your journey since you and I pretty much started. You're at a point now, you shared with me that like there might be opportunities in the future now that you've grown to where you've grown to possibly do what you're doing abroad for a little bit. So I'm like getting to see this like dope ass evolution of my friend, not only just as like a entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur, but a really successful dad, a really successful husband. And you're someone that I go to for like, hey, like, what are your thoughts on this? Because one of the most influential moments for me leaving baseball was that conversation that we had where you were like, listen, Des, how much money would it take for you to leave your family? And I was like, none. And you're like, oh, you got your answer then, man. Like, oh, shit, that is so simple. And you're absolutely right. I'm going to say no to this job opportunity and I'm going to go out on my own. Right. And so you and I have kind of been together during these life moments. So when I ask you this question, man, obviously it's the Can't Believe I Made It podcast. We're diving into people's heroes' journeys and where they see themselves, right? So my big question for you is, have you made it? And if not, what does making it look like for you and your family?
I was honestly thinking about that recently, and I went on a walk with Alyssa and Amaya, and I was like, all right, is it making $1 million a year? And I thought to myself, that's not it. Because I know if I make $1 million a year, that's going to be a lot of work that I'm going to be doing. And there's nothing wrong with having that goal. It's just not my own personal goal.
Yeah.
I want to live comfortably. I want to be able to support my family. And I know that doing that at $1 million a year, I'll be able to do all that, but then I have no time for my family.
Hey, Biggie said it best, man.
I don't want to give up my time for money. And that's just been something that my dad has taught me since I was a kid, because when my parents got divorced, it was always like he wanted to spend so much time with me. And I never understood it till now. I was like, why is he always wanting to spend time with me? Like, what's the big deal? But it's just like, time is the only thing we can never get back. And especially now with COVID, a lot of people are struggling financially, but we've made it to this side. And honestly, the one thing we can't get back is that year. That a lot of people looked sad and depressed on, when it was more of a time of bringing families together. And it did shift some families apart, but I think that goes to show you that not a lot of people have their values together. But have I made it? Not yet. I've made it to a point in my journey, but not the peak. Because when the peak comes, and you fall. So I've made it to a step on my journey. But what would making it look like?
Yeah. What would be the peak for you? What's that moment that you're just like, shit, this is wow.
From a financial standpoint, it would be all my student loans paid off, my wife's and I's, a house paid off, and everyone in good health. I mean, from a financial point, that's all I really want: a house and debts paid. I don't need much else. Not like I'm looking to fly jets across the country every day. I mean, it'd be nice to travel. Like, I would like to travel. That's definitely part of it. So have enough financial freedom to travel. But that's step one. Step two, I guess, from a business standpoint, is be able to affect athletes and active individuals and high performers so much so that I no longer need to preach what I preach, because someone that has a bigger platform than me, that learned from me, is saying it.
Yeah.
And that's why I like working with active individuals and athletes, because they have these platforms that are way bigger than my own at the moment. And if they can say, hey, hydrate or dihydrate,
I'm good.
Good. So I think if I could get hydrate or dihydrate to be known universally, I think that would be my peak. And it's not because of me, but it's because I know people are hydrating and they understood the message. I think that would be the peak from a business standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense to me, because I mean, you're a complete kind of 180 from really thinking that something was wrong with your body to doing everything that you did, and then getting to that point where you got involved with athletics, where it was about performance and it was about mindfulness, and like, all right, I didn't perform well. How did I sleep last night? How did I eat? How did I hydrate? And so man, it's kind of cool to hear. I don't even think I've ever heard you say what you just said. I like that. So I want to say two things. One, you've already made it, and you've already made it in this household, because you got a 5-year-old out in the next room that is more than willing at any point to tell people to hydrate or dihydrate.
Goals, baby, goals. That's
Dude,
it.
Rory is one of your biggest fans. That's the first thing. My second thing, on a bit more of a serious note, is obviously you had to go through what you did from that point on, where you realized that you were different inside of a school of people that didn't look like you, right? To that urology appointment, to the things that your family has said to you, to ways in which you've chose to distract or remove yourself. You talked about the hat. You talked about all of these things. I mean, kind of thinking back and then thinking forward, or thinking presently, I guess, to where you are now, is there any message that you would send to that 13-year-old that is leaving that urology appointment, that was given two choices that had very little to do with possibly helping you with your mental health at the time, or helping you understand why bodies are different? Or, I mean, what would you say now, who you are today, to that 13-year-old, to help them possibly not struggle? Or was it necessary?
I think it was all necessary. I think if I had to go back and say one thing to myself, I think I'd give myself one of these self-branded bottles and be like, hydrate or dihydrate, buddy. And that would be it. Just leave it at that and be like, what the fuck? Why does some creepy dude tell me to hydrate?
Not only did I just have to drop my pants in front of my mom and this lady, but this dude just came in and gave me this branded bottle that says hydrate or dihydrate.
Fucking weirdos, dude. What a day. Is it Freaky Friday? What the hell? But I don't think I tell myself anything, because everything I went to put me through exactly where I needed to be at that moment. And one thing I picked up from my dad, it's always like in the darkest times is when dawn will break. So all these dark times, it's just knowing to keep pushing through. No matter where you are, what you're doing, where you are in your journey, it's about pushing through and not giving up. Winston Churchill said it best: never, never, never give up.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm happy to have obviously gotten a nice little chapter in your life story of just being a part of it, man. I think that's one thing that I continually get from you, is just to continue to keep going. And so not only have you impacted this house with my daughter,
hydrate or dihydrate,
but obviously you've impacted me in so many positive ways, man. I'm so grateful for our friendship. So before I let you go, I got a fun question for you, and then we'll do all the pleasantries of where people can find you. All right. Obviously, podcast about the hero's journey. So I want you to put yourself in the mindset or the place of a superhero, right? Marvel, DC. You can even go beyond like characters and movies that you really look up to, right? So with that being said, who is your superhero comparison and why?
I've thought about this before, and I like superhero movies, but the person I compare myself to, or I push myself to strive toward, is my father. He is my superhero. Reason being, he came to this country without speaking a lick of English, made it as a doctor, taught at Columbia Presbyterian, which is one of the best and highly regarded medical schools in the United States. Had a family, opened his own private practice in a county in a city that was mostly American, mostly white, and didn't accept brown people at the time, or didn't know what Hispanics were.
We're still working on that.
And even though during the time when my parents got divorced, and I never understood it, but from a man that has always been honest and a hard worker, and has never told a lie in his life, and if he has, it hasn't been to me or to anyone he's worked with, I consider that a superhero, like being honest. And it's not easy being honest. It takes a lot out of people, and people think like, oh, what's being honest? But there's a lot of things that we can lie about. And I think knowing that about my dad and him always supporting me, that's what makes him a superhero to me, because at the end of the day, that's what empowered me to be who I am today. And he's someone I look up to every day.
Yeah. And it's rightfully so, man. I think as you talk about your dad, I mean, there's your family. You talk about your journey, and then also what your dad represents. There's your health. All right. And then if we talk about that last value, which you're absolutely right, man. I think honesty is such a hard thing. It requires you to have that mindset that it's okay to have hard conversations. So, man, I'm so grateful for you, dude.
Grateful for you too, man. Thanks for having me on and making me cry a little bit.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that was my goal. Like I woke up today and I was like,
a little dirt.
Yeah. Like that Geico commercial. I forgot what the song is. Got pollen.
I think I got a mosquito in my eye. Hold on.
Yeah.
Came around.
Yeah, man. I woke up today feeling violent. So I was like, I'm gonna make Tony Castillo cry today.
There it is. That's it.
No, man, jokes aside, bro, I absolutely appreciate the vulnerability behind just telling your story right now, man. Yeah. You actually said some things I actually didn't know. So I think for a lot of you listeners out there, again, we're doing this series because I want you to understand that like these people who are performing at high performing levels, right? These people that are the people that you look up to, they're subject to self-doubt. They're subject to triumph. They're subject to pain, to hurt, to all the things that you feel. So if you're listening to this and if this is hitting you some sort of way, it's because you're a fucking high performer and you need to become that person. So getting to hear a story, Tony, like yours, man, I'm sure a lot of our listeners, I know that I loved it. So I know that they're going to love it too. So, man, where can people find you? What kind of projects can we as a pod community support you with? Anything like that?
Commenting on Dezi's post on Facebook. If he still asks me to drop a GIF, I will. I always drop a GIF no matter what, Dezi.
Always.
You can find me on Instagram at coach_Tony Castillo. You can go to my website, Nutritionfp, which stands for forperformance.com, nutritionfp.com. Those are the two places you can find me, or commenting on Dezi's Instagram or Facebook posts or on his podcast and supporting him because he is a goat amongst sheep.
I appreciate you, man. I really do. All right. So for all our listeners out there, you already know the drill by now. If something resonated with you, please do me a favor, screenshot the episode. Let us know one of your biggest takeaways or some of the things that you're going to take from this really influential and beautiful story. And I mean, here's the thing. The dude's not done. That's the crazy thing for me as his
hydrate
friend.
or dihydrate.
Yeah, the dude isn't done. So yeah, you can definitely always comment hydrate or dihydrate. You can see the I'm surprised you didn't go superhero Captain Hydrate.
I almost thought about it, but you know, that got me in my
but
field.
The
money records.
the dad one was way better. Yeah, I'm glad that you went the way. All right. So our listeners out there, as always, thank you guys so much for jumping in another pod with us. TC, I love you, bro. Thanks once again.
Appreciate you.